been so long since I've been on here. I have recently started blogging again. It's been really busy because I had a baby 2 months ago. And I started thinking, you know what, I want to share, there's certain things I want to share in my blog that are so much easier to share via video. So we're going to dive right in. And today's video is the difference between spinning commercially prepared top, which is also known as roving, and the difference between spinning farm wool, which, here's an example I have right here. And this is more geared for the beginner, like what to look for and what might be a good thing for you to start with, right? Because I think when we first get into spinning, there's so many choices out there, and honestly it can be overwhelming. If you're exposed to all the choices before you start, you kind of don't even know where to begin, right? And I think it's helpful to have just an idea of what might be a good thing to start with, what might be more challenging to start with. You know, if you're not having great success with your spinning, there might be some reasons why that are maybe per se not your fault, right? You just don't have the knowledge of what to look for in your materials, okay? So I will say that when you first begin to spin, it is easiest to learn from prepared top. You don't need to learn how to prepare fiber in order to spin if you just get the prepared top or the roving. This is a nice, I love this stuff. It's non-superwash, so it has that really woolly feel to it. I did purchase it on Etsy. I don't remember exactly what shop I got it from. And this is BFL, so it's a really long staple roving. And I encourage you, if you're just getting started with spinning, I should have had a better view. Here's my spinning wheel. But I started spinning on a drop spindle, and I think that's a really smart place to begin because the investment cost is so low to just have a simple drop spindle. But even with your roving, it's good to know what to look for, especially if you're a beginner spinner. And even if you're more advanced, you might start to question, what fiber do I want for which products, and how do I even choose, right? So I know this is a topic that is probably longer than can span one video, but let's just tackle it first from the beginner spinner viewpoint. When you're trying to pick which roving to start with to learn how to spin, I recommend not getting merino roving or merino top, and that is the most available commercially because the merino is the most commonly known sheep breed out there. New Zealand kicks America's butt when it comes to wool production, and the majority of their fine fiber is going to come off of a merino sheep. So that's just the reality, and I have nothing against the merino, but just to know that I'm doing a video in case you're wondering. Just to know that the merino staple length is quite short, and this is the BFL, and it's a nice long staple length. Okay, so that means you have a lot of room to play with when you're spinning. If you have a really short staple length, you only have a little bit of time for those fibers to twist around each other before they're pulling apart, and you don't want that, especially when you're just starting. You don't want to get discouraged, right? And also you don't want to overspin your fiber because then you're going to get such a tight, wiry, scratchy wool, so you don't want that either. But when you're starting, you'd almost prefer to overspin it versus underspin it, just to first get the yarn to structurally hold together and not just on fray, because even if something's a little scratchy, you can make something out of it, but if it's literally falling apart, I mean, that's very unusable, right? You can't do anything with yarn that is a pile of this on your floor. So that's what I would recommend. As a beginner spinner, start with roving, and start with something that has a longer staple. Maybe you can find farm roving that's maybe a blend of sheep. Look for something that's maybe advertised as medium wool. I love the sheep breed that I have, which is the CVM. I have a bunch of crosses too, but the CVM has a really long staple length, and it's still next to skin soft. So it's a really easy fiber to begin spinning with. However, if you can find it in roving form for a beginner spinner, I recommend that, because you don't have to wrap your mind around fiber prep. How do I wash this fleece? How do I comb it? You know, all those things. But if you're like, you know what, I want to get as close to the animal as I can right away, and I don't want to buy commercially prepared roving. Maybe someone gave you a fleece and you're like, I have this fleece in my closet. I don't want to go out and purchase something when I already have something that I could use. So I'm going to give you some tips if you're in that case. And in that case, you might have just something that looks like this, right? Now this is off of one of my crosses. So this is a CVM Shetland cross. And this is a dream to spin. You can see it is a little dirty. This is one of the, could you turn that off please, Mama? Thanks. This is one of the sheep that I regretfully did not jacket. So it did come a little dirty. But it comes out so easily, and guess what? This fleece is not greasy at all. So I can spin it in the grease. And look at how long the staple is. And even though there is hay in there, it comes out very nicely, and I can get that out just either with a comb, just comb the tips out and just spin right from the lock like this, kind of drafting the fibers out like this, or I can put it on my combs, and this is obviously another skill, but if you can get combs, you can do whatever you want with any fleece you get, basically. And these are the fine combs, and I recommend these if you're working with next to skin wool. So that's what to look for. You want something that has a long staple length, whether you're working with a raw fleece or with roving. You want something with a long staple length, something that's not really slippery per se. So I like spinning this in the raw because it's not really slippery. It just hangs on to itself really easily. It's actually easy to clean, and I'm spinning this before I wash it. It's just easy. Experiment with your fleece that you get to see which is better, because I washed a chunk of this and I was working with it, and it wasn't as fun for me to spin as in the grease. So don't be afraid to play with your fleece, whatever you have. So that's my quick tip for the day. Roving versus farm wool, what to look for as a beginner spinner. I hope that helps you, and I hope you have a great day. We'll see ya.